US entry intensifies Iran-Israel war. Iran threatens closure of oil corridor. Is India ready to brace the impact?
Our companies, the oil marketing companies, have enough stocks. Most of them have stocks up to 3 weeks. And I believe that there is no cause for any alarm on this score.
Energy, export and Middle East. Will deal and diplomacy save India's interest? Top focus on to the point.
Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Point. I'm Pooja, Shali. There is a war going on between Iran, Israel and now the United States of America too. India is not involved, but will India be impacted? What are our options? How can we protect our domestic interests and ensure that we are bracing for the impact? We have a special discussion lined up on that. First, the headlines. Israel and Iran continue to pound each other with missiles. Iran strikes Israel's Ashdod power plant. Israel retaliates, hits Iran's internal security headquarters, Tehran prison, main city square. In other news coming in, there were by-poll election results coming in. Aam Aadmi Party winning big in Gujarat, Visavadar and Ludhiana by polls as well. Congress returns to Nilambur in Kerala. Trinamool retains Kaliganj. BJP also meanwhile bags Gujarat's Kadi seat. Is this reflective of what's unfolding with political calculations and what people want in their respective constituencies of the state? Andhra Pradesh police names Jagan as an accused in road accident case after his convoy vehicle not only crushed a YSRCP supporter but literally dragged him to a few meters before Jagan and others realized. The former chief minister has but hit out at Naidu government, questioning lapses in the Z+ security protocol. What is Shashi Tharoor up to? It's a glowing praise this time for Prime Minister Modi's charisma from the Congress Member of Parliament. Tharoor calls Modi India's prime asset, says Modi deserves more backing, and all of this in an editorial to a leading Indian daily. Amid the war, if there's one focus, that is on Pakistan, interestingly. It's a loss of face. Pakistan netas say review Trump's Nobel Peace Prize nomination after literally officially accepting that they'll nominate him for the Peace Prize. They want it reviewed. US bombs Iran nuke sites, Pakistan firefights. Not always about entertainment, is it? It's a massive backlash over Diljit Dosanjh's film with Pakistani actor. Diljit was seen with India Beta actress who called Operation Sindoor cowardly. But producer says film was shot before the conflict. Remains to be seen what happens to the film's future and for the actor Diljit Dosanjh. So let's begin. I want to first take you through the latest developments that have come in from West Asia, especially between Iran, Israel, and now that the USA has also entered into the war. Iran witnessed a series of fresh and more intense Israeli airstrikes near the capital city Tehran. One of the strikes reportedly hit the gate of Evin prison, is the infamous prison facility known for holding dual nationals, Western detainees, often used as leverage in negotiations with the West. The Israeli military, look at that, has confirmed that one of its Air May's unmanned aerial vehicle was shot down during a military operation conducted in the Iranian airspace. The coastal city of Ashkelon in Israel was also struck by the Iranian missiles. The coastal city where the images on your screen show that there is smoke coming out from near an electricity infrastructure facility in Israel. In other news coming in, This is again from Israel's Nez Zion city. Several buildings turned into rubble in the city, located just a few kilometers away from the capital city of Tel Aviv. And finally, what about other world leaders responding to it? Russian President Vladimir Putin condemning the recent strikes on Iran as unprovoked aggression after meeting Iran's foreign minister in Moscow. He also has spoken with US President Donald Trump, also with Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, vowing that Russia will send aid to the Iranian public. So today's discussion, I want to focus on trying to understand India's role. Not really a debate on political or strategic affairs, but to help understand how we as a nation can protect ourselves while we are friendly as much with Israel and Iran and the USA as well. I'm joined by special guest this evening, Professor Brahmachalani. He's a strategic affairs expert. He's been an advisor, remember, to India's National Security Council as well. Ambassador Veena Sikri will be joining us in just a short while. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, also as a defense expert, joins me. I want to start with you, Professor Chalani. When Minister Hardeep Puri says that be reassured, we have our options when the Strait of Hormuz is going to be closed down, but we have diversified our options when it comes to oil and more. Are you reassured by that? What do you think are our options? How can we be better prepared to ensure India does not get impacted from this war?
These developments, unfortunately, are beyond India's control because major powers are involved. The US is the one that actually has precipitated the present crisis by bombing Iranian nuclear sites that were under international safeguards. They were being monitored and being inspected by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Now, the fear of Iranian retaliation is hanging like a sword over the region. And the Iranians are likely to respond to the American bombings. The problem for India is that it's heavily dependent on energy supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly 50% of India's oil imports come through the Strait of Hormuz. Ever since Israel launched its preemptive war against Iran on June 13th, the international oil price has been steadily rising. As a result, India's oil import bill already has been going up by millions of dollars per day, millions of dollars per day. So it's not about what awaits India, what awaits India in the coming days. India is already paying a heavy price in terms of a much higher oil import bill. And then there are these larger issues, that we should not forget because they are getting obscured in this discourse, which is the hypocrisy. You look at how the US, since the 1980s, aided and abetted the covert nuclear program of Iran's neighbor, Pakistan. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah, throughout the 1980s and 1990s, successive US administrations ignored mounting evidence that Pakistan was secretly enriching uranium and building nuclear weapons, all while Islamabad was extracting billions in US aid. The US looked the other way because Pakistan was a Cold War partner. The result was and is a fragile state armed with an Islamic bomb. Today, Pakistan uses its nuclear arsenal as a shield for cross-border terrorism. We all know that. And yet, Washington remains silent, reluctant to confront Islamabad, even as it demands Iran disarm, even though Iran is a non-nuclear adversary of America. And it is such double standards that corrode the legitimacy of non-proliferation, and they send a dangerous message to countries like Iran. Nuclear weapons just don't deter invasions, they ensure impunity. This is a message that Tehran is getting.
I think that's an interesting point you're making. So for the United States of America, for example, nuclear weapons are okay if it's an ally, but it's definitely not okay when it comes to an arch rival or a foe. So, and that's how they then define how to go about it. In this case, of course, meeting Asim Munir and then the whole Peace Prize faux that we saw also is reflective of the kind of relationship they share. Also joining me now, Ambassador Veena Sikri, with a massive experience as an IFS officer. She's led a lot of challenging, prestigious assignments as well. When we talk of a conflict of this nature, which is clearly escalating, we haven't seen more and more countries joining in, at least in conflicts like this in the past few years. I'm talking about oil trade people. How does India protect itself? Do you think deals and diplomacy, people to people connect, will come to our rescue? Because at this juncture, both Iran and Israel are our friendly allies.
Well, we have to admit that this is a very, very serious threat to regional and global peace and security. And certainly we have to look at it like that because, yesterday we thought that after the American strikes, and I agree with what Professor Brahmacharani has said about the hypocrisy of the whole thing, and the value of the NPT is gone. Everything is gone. It's just complete hypocrisy. But yesterday we did think that after the American strikes, and if Israel resisted from further strikes on Iran, then you could have a situation where negotiations could start again. You know, the negotiation scheduled for last Sunday, which did not take place because of the Israeli strikes on Iran on the 13th. So we thought, okay, maybe there's a chance it could start again. There were Europeans talking to the Iranian foreign minister. The Iranian foreign minister was in Turkey. Today he's in Moscow. And there was thought. But today, because of the strong strikes by Israel on Iran, which have been terrible. And of course, there is strikes by Iran on Israel as well. So there's absolutely no signs of stoppage of the strikes. And so it is very clear that rather than help the situation, the American strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran have worsened the situation, and you can see a regional conflagration anytime soon. So there are two options here. Iran has threatened that they could attack American regional bases in the Gulf. There are a large number of American troops stationed there. And that would, of course, be a very, very serious threat to security. There is a threat from the Iranian parliament. They have approved the closing of the Straits of Hormuz. And yes, a very large amount of world's crude supply does go through that. America is appealing to China now to tell Iran not to stop close the Straits of Hormuz because China is so heavily dependent on Iranian petroleum product supplies. So it is a very complex situation. For India, we have two big problems. I mean, one is, of course, the supply of petroleum, oil and gas products. And our minister, Shri Puri has said that, we don't have to worry right now because we don't get such a large percentage from Iran. But certainly from all the Gulf states combined, it is a fairly large percentage. So we would be very worried if the Straits of Hormuz were to be closed, although we have very good relations with the Gulf countries. So we could expect something. But the expectation also is that the Strait of Hormuz will not be closed because America would not allow it to be closed. Last time, in the previous times when Iran has tried to close the Straits of Hormuz, American ships have actually escorted naval vessels carrying food products outside. So it's been a problem. But the second big issue for us also is the very large number of people of Indian origin, Indian citizens, in the Gulf countries, in the millions. It could be about 8 or 9 million.
9 million total in the region.
In the region. So that is a huge source of worry because, we would be very concerned about their welfare. Should the conflagration go up? Should there be a long-term conflagration in the Gulf countries? Their concerns, their safety, their security, their work, their jobs. It's a huge, huge issue for India. And this is certainly an aspect that will be causing us a great deal of concern and alarm. So one can only hope that after Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi's visit to Moscow, and Moscow would be consulting with China as well. One would hope that there would be some push towards the negotiation starting. But for Supreme Leader Khamenei to give in at this stage does seem a big, big question mark.
We're looking at how so many Indians who live in West Asia, many of them have been evacuated. Remember, it's not just about Iran, which has about 10 to 20,000 Indians in different sectors studying, working. In Israel, it's about 40,000 approximately. Again, more of them are in professions, different professions in Israel. But it's overall in Middle East, from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, who have a massive population. We have to look at those interests too. Ambassador Sikri, thank you for putting in perspective different views here. I want to now go across to Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. I am also curious to know how the defense sector pans out. Israel and India, of course, have this massive defense partnership. The kind of arms ammunition we have been importing from Israel. But amid all of that, there has been an increase in the arms trade, but as a relationship with Israel on one side, then with Iran. How do you think India can best maneuver this to be able to at least ensure our domestic interests are taken care of? And I keep reiterating it because India wouldn't want to get dragged into a war it doesn't want at this point.
Definitely, Pooja. We would want to get dragged into it, and we have good relations with Israel. We have excellent relations with Iran, and that's the reason why we could have our children pulled out from Iran despite the war going on there.
Yes.
So that itself speaks volumes of our relationship, volumes of the way the Prime Minister spoke to the President there, and then you find all of it happening. And similarly with Israel, Israel has always stood with India in times of need, in war conditions, and therefore we are strategically inclined. We have quite a bit of, I would say, Israeli equipment, whether it is in terms of Iran, whether it is in terms of other fields of communication or cyber. So there is a lot that goes on between India and Israel. So relations between the two countries definitely.
How do you look at this mission evacuation? If I can talk about that briefly, the fact that Iran opened its airspace for India, Israel has been we've been able to have this massive mission evacuation. India made it look very easy. It has done it over the years. But what does it reflect in terms of our relationship with Iran and Israel?
That's very important because until and unless we have good relations, these kind of things will not happen. And especially when you saw that happening, when it was Ukraine. You see similar things now. You see that happening again with Iran. Well, it's Israel also. With so many people there, they'll be able to come out from there. That's not a major issue. But what is more important is that we have to strike a balance. You can't take a stand. And there's a lot of instigation, a lot of things that come out in the media and otherwise that, no, we should be able to stand with Iran. No, we should stand with Israel. It's nothing like standing with Iran or Israel. There are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, but they're permanent national interests. And therefore, at this point of time, we need to ensure that the peace prevails over there. And that is the most important thing. Now, irrespective of what's happened, the United States may have entered the war, but the United States is absolutely clear. They've stuck those 3 nuclear sites, and that's it. That's the end of it. Even otherwise also, Israel has been telling Iran where exactly to be striking, and striking, well, most of the military leaders, top-notch military leaders, knocked off, similarly the nuclear scientists, the military production side, the nuclear side, all others, anything and everything connected with war and the war machinery have been hit by Israel. But then Israel is only about 420 miles long and 130 odd kilometers wide. The result of which, such a small country, which is even 75 times smaller than Iran, anything and everything from Iran, and it crosses and it passes the Iron Dome, it passes the David Sling, it passes the Arrow system. Then obviously you have even 4 or 5 landing there, it's adequate to cause the damage that it has already caused in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, and Haifa port, and things of those kinds. So therefore, surely the human loss has not been much in Israel because each one of them have constructed those underground bunkers for themselves. All their houses are built in like that.
Yes.
So they automatically go underground and therefore save themselves. Unlike Iran, where about 600 or 400 people may have lost their lives and about 3,000-4,000 people may have got injured. That's a different thing. But irrespective of all that, it, I think, lies more now. And again, the Strait of Hormuz that we talk about, no, Strait of Hormuz is very difficult because it's shared between Oman and it's shared with Iran. At 33 kilometers. It's not very easy. It hasn't ever been blocked. It can be disruptive.
UAE also, yes, correct. Even the UAE down toward the south. So, yeah, I think it also involves other countries, so possibly that decision will be kept on hold to close the Strait of Hormuz. Professor Chelani, let's ask a very direct question. What do you think should be India's role at this juncture? Should we focus on saving our domestic and protecting our domestic interests? Should we instead try to act as a mediator in this war? Or do you believe that we should go ahead and also expose the USA for its hypocrisy that we've been talking about?
Let's look at the situation in this way. Does India have a major stake in this ongoing confrontation or not? If the answer is yes, and it's clear that India has a major stake because it's directly being impacted by the developments, and in fact, if this escalates further, India's energy and security interests both would be gravely affected. Given that reality, India should speak up and be diplomatically active.
What does that mean?
If Trump can mediate in the India-Pakistan brief military hostilities, why shouldn't India be seeking to insert itself as a go-between the rival parties? For example, the Prime Minister Modi had a word with the Iranian president when the Iranian president called him, and Mr. Modi urged the Iranian president that the right path is toward de-escalation.
Yes.
That should have been followed up with a phone call to Donald Trump. After all, he's the man who ordered the attack. You know, just talking to the leader of the bombed country is not enough. You have to talk to the leader of the attacking country. And so in other words, by calling the White House, Modi in effect would have turned the tables on Trump. Here would have been Modi seeking to do to Trump what Trump claims to have done to India. But certainly, whatever the motivation might be, the fact is that India's interests are at stake. India is being directly impinged by the developments.
How do you say that? Before I go across to other guests, I just want to understand that. Why would you think that India has a higher stake in some way here?
Yeah, first, now look at this whole theory that both the US and Israel are propounding, that Iran's possible potential nuclearization would pose a grave threat to the global order and to Israel's very existence. Now, if you look at the geography, Israel does not neighbor Iran. Iran is located well beyond Israel's immediate neighborhood. There are strategic and geographic buffers between Israel and Iran, including Syria, Jordan, and Iraq.
Yes.
Iran is just 500 nautical miles from India. India is directly sandwiched between two nuclear-armed, closely aligned adversaries, China and Pakistan.
Correct.
And if Iran develops nuclear arsenal, India would have 3 nuclear neighbors. So it's not just about Israel's security. It's not about America's claim that Iran is a threat to global security. India also has a stake in what's happening. But we are very quiet, as if we are just a bystander. I'm not saying that do something that is brash or diplomatically wise. I'm saying that realize that you have a stake in the present situation. It impinges on your interest directly. So be active diplomatically.
Can we have a more active diplomacy? Ambassador Sikri, I want to bring in from a point from what Professor Shilani said. I remember that when Russia-Ukraine war was on and there were sanctions imposed, India was one of the few countries to defy the Western nation sanctions against Russia. We went ahead, took the discounted crude oil. At this juncture, I'm also looking at China. China, interestingly, slightly quiet than usual. We wouldn't want China factor to be able to get the benefit of this war. How do you think India's equation with Western nations will go here with sanctions increasing on Iran? It's been there already, earlier as well. How do you think India can wade through at this juncture with its friendly allies, but also not fall for how the Western nations want this war to go on?
I think that India is firmly maintaining its position of strategic autonomy, and that India has a very important role in this is shown by the fact that President Masood Pezeshkian himself telephoned our Prime Minister. The very first point he did was to telephone our Prime Minister and raise these issues and expressed Iran's concern. And obviously, he saw a role for India in the solution to the conflict, and that's why he telephoned him. And our Prime Minister absolutely correctly focused on the 3 Ds, the de-escalation, the dialogue, and the diplomacy. Now, it doesn't mean seen that it stopped at that, because certainly following up on this conversation, our diplomatic contacts, not only with the USA, other Western nations, whether it is UK and other foreign ministers who've been talking to the Iranian foreign minister, but also with with Israel. We know that our external affairs minister had several discussions. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been calling our prime minister as well. So these are continuing. I'm not saying they need not be out in the open. These discussions, the diplomatic contacts, how to continue these situations, how to bring this entirely volatile, dangerously volatile situation to a more even keel is very important for us. We have Professor Brahmacharani themselves said, we have a vital interest in this region, and we will do everything to bring it back to normalcy. And I think certainly that we have also pointed out the hypocrisy of the situation. You've seen, for example, that Pakistan, which one day is nominating President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, the very next day is issuing a stern démarche criticizing the American attack on Iran and saying, this is Iran has every right of self-defense and so on. So they put themselves exactly on the opposite place that with America on this one. But we are doing everything much more quietly, and I'm sure the world recognizes that. So now when the Iranian foreign minister is today in Moscow, we would certainly be following that and seeing what President Putin is saying. President Putin has himself said that, he's a little bit tied down by the fact that there's a huge population, more than 2 million Russian-speaking people in Israel.
Yes.
And because of this, he is not able to take a more active role. But we do know that Russia has China behind them, and the China-Russia-Iran axis has been quite strong. So there are all wheels within wheels, and we are certainly working within those wheels to see that the situation will calm down. I think the next 24, 48 hours are very critical before Iran takes any kind of important decision to up the ante, as it were, in the Gulf region, whether by attacking American the region or by the Straits of Hormuz. So these 24, 48 hours are very critical.
General, you want to take that question about the China factor here, because China has offered, like with Russia, if there is any mediation required, will come in, that they could try to get more active in this and come out a bigger winner, whether it comes to trade, monopoly, a nuclear warfare, all of that and more. How can India ensure that we have to look at that factor too?
Pooja, firstly, of course, Munir has embarrassed his country by accepting that lunch offer from the President of the United States of America, that there is no denying the fact. As because China is concerned, well, China has a $400 billion 20 years deal on oil with Iran. Similarly, Russia has a $300 billion deal with on gas with Iran. And therefore, the Strait of Hormuz, as I understand, will never ever get blocked, because almost the entire oil of Iran gets picked up by Iran. So that is one aspect. The other thing is even Japan, South Korea, India, all of them get affected. So the Strait of Hormuz part, I think, well, disruption, yes, but total blockade seems rather remote. But in the entire thing, neither is Iran innocent. I look at it this way. Iran isn't a very innocent way. Where in the world do you have a nuclear program, a power program, firing things 80 meters down and underground? Is it anywhere? Anywhere in the world, if anybody can show me that such a thing exists. And therefore, Iran all along has been wanting to weaponize nuclear. There is no complaint. The enrichment of uranium should Iran, where Iran was help the United States of America to begin with, had it wanted to confine itself only to nuclear program from the point of view of power energy is concerned, that would have been 5%. If it wanted another 20% back for research or for medicinal purposes. But to go beyond 60%, 80%, 90%, and then say, well, look, there's nothing over there. We've already removed, even if they have removed 450 kgs of uranium, whatever it is, Iran is not innocent. Let's be very honest about it. It clearly shows that Iran had a nuclear weaponization program, and it was on it without pay. Iran has been threatening Israel right through. Death to America, death to Israel, will wipe out Israel from the face of the earth. All these indicators, and then following it up, of course, hypocrisy exists. If Iran is number one terror country, to me, Pakistan is using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. So there is hypocrisy, no doubt about it. But in the present context, Iran isn't innocent. Iran can't say we were attacked.
Okay, good
Because
point.
Iran kept playing, having Hamas and Hezbollah right next to Israel, attacking constantly. Why else would Russia get this thing annoyed with Ukraine?
All I can see also is in Iran and with the USA as much, there's this uncertain, unpredictable leadership. We really do not know what they say and how they will react, and will it be in complete opposition to their own words. So we'll have to really track, and India will have to cautiously tread ahead as well. I hope that the leadership will ensure our people, our interests are protected. We have managed that in the past few wars and conflict. This will be a developing story too. I truly appreciate all three of our guests and for your perspectives, for your views, and I hope we can be part of more such discussions. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on To The Point. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor is making headlines again. This time Tharoor has called Prime Minister Modi in an editorial a prime asset for India. It's triggered shockwaves within his own party and caught everyone else's attention too. I want you to take a look at this report to help understand what did Shashi Tharoor say and again and why.
No stopping Shashi Tharoor's open admiration for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has stunned his party with fresh praise for Prime Minister Modi. Fresh off a five-nation diplomatic tour defending India's Operation Sindoor, Tharoor penned a column calling Modi a prime asset for India, lauding his energy, dynamism and global engagement.
What we've seen from the press statements by both the Prime Minister and by President Trump are very encouraging, because it looks like some of the big concerns we all had have been addressed. They've decided to sit down together and do a serious negotiation. I think that's a very good outcome, because otherwise the fear was there might be some hasty decisions made in Washington which would have affected our exports.
Tharoor even urged greater backing for Modi's diplomacy, a direct rebuttal to Rahul Gandhi's jibes at Modi. Tharoor's admiration for Modi comes days after he openly admitted rift with Congress brass.
Yes, there may have been some differences with the leadership on some issues. Those can be sorted out in closed-door conversations, and I don't see any reason to discuss them now. Whatever is out there in the public domain is out there. We leave it there.
But not everyone's clapping. Congress has been slamming Tharoor for snubbing the UPA's own surgical strikes, calling his praise a betrayal. Tharoor is, however, unfazed. He has hit back at trolls and critics, saying he's got better things to do. Tharoor has unleashed a spree of Modi praise, hailing the Prime Minister for Operation Sindoor and conducting the very first surgical strike on Pakistan.
What has changed in recent years is that the terrorists have also realized they will have a price to pay. The Uri strike in September 2015, that was already something we had not done before. Even during the Kargil war, we had not crossed the line of control. In Uri, we did.
Does the Modi-Tharoor bonhomie point to changing equations in Kerala Congress? Bureau Report, India Today.
And connected to Kerala, from where Shashi Tharoor represents, Thiruvananthapuram, is also another story coming in of a by-poll election result. Remember, there was a full-on infighting of whether Shashi Tharoor was even invited to meetings, discussions as a star campaigner. Congress candidate Aravind Shaukat has won from Nilambur in the by-elections in Kerala. It's clearly a Congress victory. It's a boost to the Congress party. But could it also show that the whole infighting didn't really have an impact? But it's also a reminder at this juncture about how Congress has a chance in the state of Kerala. But will they have to look more united, at least in the days to come? A big victory for Aravind Shaukat, who comes from a political MLA family. In fact, his father has represented as an MLA for several years. But amid all of this, as of now, no impact directly when it comes to the infighting. I want to discuss and debate and try and understand what's happening with regard to the Tharoor camp. Tehseen Poonawala is joining me as a political analyst. Karan Verma, political analyst, joins us. Tehseen, good to see you. I want to begin with you at this juncture, and before that I want to first quote from the editorial. So the editorial is Lessons from Operation Sindoor's Global Outreach. It's a full-on mention about what the government can do even more in the days to come, but he ends it by saying, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's energy, dynamism and willingness to engage remains a prime asset for India on the global stage and deserves greater backing. I'm sure it's ruffled a lot of feathers within the Congress party. Now, Tehseen, you're not officially a part of the Congress party, but you've been a long-term time supporter. What can the Congress do to not simply dismiss and distance such views, take them into account and possibly understand that Tharoor is as much an asset? Or do you think it's time for Tharoor to quit the Congress?
Thank you so much, Pooja, for having me, and to the point, wonderful show. And two particular aspects. I think what Dr. Tharoor reflects, and I read this editorial this morning, and I think it reflects what the Congress party stands for. And it is only in the Congress party, the party that I support, that you can have a member of parliament openly writing an editorial praising the opposition, in this case, the prime minister was in opposition to the Congress party, and no action is taken against him. This shows principally how democratic the Congress party is, particularly under Srimati Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Now, let's come to the aspects. What Dr. Tharoor wrote, particularly about the Prime Minister, is absolutely true. On a global stage, the Prime Minister has represented India brilliantly. Operation Sindoor was much needed. That's my personal opinion. In fact, the only disappointment I had with the BJP and the government is we didn't send all of them to the 72 Hoods. We should have sent all those terrorists to there. But the Prime Minister took a political decision, and the global outreach was extremely, it brought about the best of India. We came together and we said why this needed to be done. So I think that is fantastic. Nobody's disputing that. And domestically, we will have our politics where we can, argue on ideologies and political points of views. So I think it is only the Congress that gives that space. Remember, under the Congress leadership, the then leader of opposition, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, along with Salman Khurshid, who, by the way, even this time did a fantastic job, was sent to represent India at the United Nations. It shows you the Congress is the party of Gandhi and Nehru, a truly democratic party. No BJP leader will have the guts to praise Mrs. Gandhi, to praise Sonia ji, or Rahul Gandhi or somebody in the opposition. That is the difference between the Congress and the
because
BJP.
you're in the opposition, Tehseen. You're in an opposition, but you're looking and sounding more like you're possibly part of the government.
Yeah, because the BJP needs to love government, needs to learn governance. The BJP only is all the time playing victim card in domestic politics. Where is the governance of the BJP on domestic issues? Now, again, I completely agree with what Dr. Tharoor said with regards to the Honorable Prime Minister. Operation Sindoor completely back him, and what the global outreach was much needed and very successful. The Prime Minister showed himself as a statesman on a global level. But domestic politics, we can have differences of opinion, how to react in different situations, and I think that what makes
Karan, what is your assessment? Let's take that question. Do you think, because you're an author, you understand the power of words, do you think Shashi Tharoor needs to leave the Congress? He has a better future with the BJP, or perhaps it's an interesting game Shashi Tharoor is possibly playing?
I think, Shashi Tharoor has no option but to leave the Congress eventually. He'll follow the same path that Himanta Biswa Sarma, that Ghulam Nabi Azad, that all these people, Milind Deora, they have
Jyotiraditya Scindia.
Jyotiraditya Scindia, they have to eventually leave the Congress. You must understand here, this is a symptom of a systemic problem that the Congress party has from day one. If we trace back its roots, why did B.R. Ambedkar leave the Congress party? He wrote it in a letter that I have a problem with the foreign policy and I'm feeling marginalized within the Congress party. B.R. Ambedkar's words. What happened with P.V. Narasimha Rao? Can you imagine his mortal remains weren't allowed to enter 24 Akbar Road? That's how he was ill-treated. Pranab Mukherjee, his daughter writes, Sharmishta writes, that I can never forgive Sonia Gandhi and the family for disrespecting Pranab Da. When he was getting the Bharat Ratna, nobody from the family came. So Shashi Tharoor is in the same boat. You must understand there's a reason why these people are leaving the Congress party. Shashi Tharoor was the Under Secretary General at the United Nations. Tell me one person who is as capable as Shashi Tharoor to represent India from a delegation standpoint at this crucial juncture. And the Congress party didn't nominate him as one of the 5 members. And they continued undermining him. What did Udit Raj write? He's a super spokesperson of the BJP. Jairam Ramesh retweeted that entire thing. So they are trying to, cut him to size. He's feeling suffocated in that environment. And a meritorious person like Shashi Tharoor needs to fly out and look for greener pastures where his talent can be respected, where his merit can be respected. And Congress is certainly not that party. And time and again, so many people, even people like Kapil Sibal, have left the party. They've said there are systemic issues within the party, and these are all meritorious people, whether we agree with them or we don't agree with them. So Congress must look within, introspect, and change this before it's too late. In fact, it's already too late. 93 losses.
Tessin,
what
do you
worse than that?
do you think that perhaps the senior leadership can reach out better to Shashi Tharoor? Is it about personal ambitions, ego, or do you think this speaks highly of the Congress leadership, like you're mentioning? Because I want to understand that more.
So, of course, it's not always black or white. There is, and I do agree with some of the points Karan made.
Yes.
My friend Milind or my friend Jyotiraditya Scindia or even Himanta Biswa Sharma should never have left the Congress. These are super talented people. But will Dr. Tharoor lead the Congress? The Congress today under Rahul Gandhi's leadership is a dynamic party that accepts all points of view. It's like a tent where different points of view come together. Number two, I also firmly believe that Dr. Tharoor even politically does not have options in the BJP. What is the BJP's presence in Kerala? It doesn't have an option. It's only the Congress of the left.
Yes.
So there is Dr. Tharoor where he will continue to do well, in my opinion, in Kerala Congress. He will do well in Kerala. And nationally, he will do extremely well for the Congress. I think the visuals are being cut to something. But yeah, I think Dr. Tharoor will do extremely well for the Congress. The Congress must also realize something. Dr. Tharoor rightfully is not a mass leader who will get the vote, say, in a Kerala. He is the kind of leader who will get you an English audience votes, the 9 p.m. votes. He will get you an urban vote. He'll get you the younger votes.
Yes.
He'll get you the women and the liberal votes,
And,
the slightly
could
central.
possibly he could become a face, if at all, for the BJP for the southern states roads, and that could possibly happen. Is the BJP looking at that? Karan, my final question to you would be, but how does it look on the BJP? I also notice, and this has been a chatter among us as well as journalists, that one of the big faces and voices that did come out from the diplomatic outreach was of Shashi Tharoor, not of a senior BJP leader possibly. So do you think this is where the BJP also intends to work and realize that their prime asset could actually have been Shashi Tharoor?
Actually, that was the endeavor all throughout. The whole endeavor of sending delegates abroad was to say that we are on the same page. We might be on the different sides of the political aisle, but we are on the same page. That's why it was always the BJP's endeavor to show to the world that it's not just the party in power, but even the opposition that is fed up with Pakistan. And they were given that sort of limelight. They were asked to lead, in a sense, to set the narrative. So if that has happened, it's a win-win proposition for the BJP, for the government. You know, you must understand, this was bipartisan. This was where we needed to put the country first.
Okay.
And when the Congress lags far behind in that aspect, I think it's going to hurt Congress's electoral prospects. It
Eventually,
might not hurt
I would
in
say
a white poll,
yes.
but in the larger run, it will dent their credibility.
So Congress should also have to look at this. Meanwhile, it's a win-win clearly for Prime Minister Modi receiving this appreciation. He's in fact shared on those official handle as well, the editorial written by Shashi Tharoor. And we'll wait and see how this proceeds. Thank you very much to both the gentlemen for coming on to the point and expressing and sharing your views as well. On that note, I'm wrapping up this bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned.